Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome or welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me here today. In today's video, we are going to be talking about some unbelievable encounters that I have had with Bhagavan Das. So for those of you who don't know who Bhagavan Das is, a quick recap of his life. He was born in Laguna Beach, California under the name Kermit Riggs, and he ended up, I believe it was at the age of 19 or so, went to India in search of a cheap hashish connection or something like that. It's all recounted in his book called It's Here Now, Are You? A wonderful book, definitely recommend checking that one out. He gets to India and gets very sick unexpectedly and ends up having a spiritual experience while he's being taken care of by an Indian woman who's hosting him. So he begins to meet all these different saints and sadhus and babas and traveling around India, ends up doing some extreme austerities, living in caves. But right before he was going to be initiated by this one teacher, he ended up meeting Hari Das Baba, a wonderful, silent, of many decades monk who ended up bringing him to Neem Karoli Baba, and then he ends up training there with Neem Karoli Baba. After a while, he's asked to leave. He goes, instead of going back to America like Neem Karoli Baba told him to, he ends up going up to Nepal and takes on a few tantric lovers, ends up meeting Ram Das, ends up bringing Ram Das back to meet Neem Karoli Baba, and then training Ram Das at Neem Karoli Baba's ashram. Everyone attributes the phrase "be here now" to Ram Das because he wrote the book entitled "Be Here Now," but the phrase, if you read the book, actually comes from Bhagavan Das saying to him something to the effect of, don't focus on the past or future, just be here now. And this has become this iconic phrase associated with Ram Das, but it actually was originated by Bhagavan Das. Comes back to America after this book has come out and becomes a massive success. He's treated as a phenom guru as a young kid, and he basically renounces all of that, and it's like no one under the age of, I forget what he says, 30, 40, 50, no one at my age has any wisdom to share, and tries to renounce all of that, but still in the course of his life, he ends up leading chanting ceremonies called kirtans for many people, and opens for Bob Dylan and the Grateful Dead, and he's had many wild rides since then, having kids and being a used car salesman, all the way to leading profound ceremonies and being this exalted spiritual leader. He's quite a wonderful being. So to me, he's just the epitome of true devotion, and just has this intense practice and this intense attitude when he is performing practices. He's very devoted to the divine, and when he sings, he'll always throw up his arm and he's chanting to the divine and calling down this energy, and it's just so much power and so much presence. And after I read Be Here Now and was first getting into all these practices, I was watching some videos of his, and I was just in awe of his power and his presence, and listening to a lot of his chanting. Meanwhile, I was at a meditation retreat, and I was just looking around at a lot of people who were very lackluster in their efforts. No judgment at this point in my life, but at the time, as a young seeker, I was just so surprised, like, why doesn't everyone have this level of profound devotion that I see in this person? Why don't more people really make their lives committed to sadhana, committed to dharma, committed to practicing, committed to awakening? I was there before my guru, Shiva Bala Yogi, and I prayed to him, and I said, please fill me with the level of devotion that I see in Bhagavan Das. Please show me how to have this level of devotion. I prayed to him about Bhagavan Das, and ended up leaving that retreat with just this sense of melancholy, a little bit about practice culture in America and the degraded state of spiritual communities in America. Kind of had Bhagavan Das in my head as this ideal of spiritual embodiment and self-effort and practice. Left the retreat, went back to Boone, North Carolina, where I was living at the time, was working at a coffee shop. About a month later, I'm just living my life, normal day, normal shift, and who walks in the door but Bhagavan Das and his wife at the time. Her name was Kali, and so I'm losing it. I can't believe the synchronicity. He seemingly was just passing through. It was just crazy timing. I had just been praying for him and his energy to come into my life literally a few weeks earlier. So I'm like trembling. I can't even get my hands together to do namaskar. I'm like, oh my gosh. I walk up to his wife. Is that Bhagavan Das? And she's like, yes, that's Bhagavan Das. And I'm like, that means you're Kali Ma? And she's like, yeah. She just nods quietly, and I about lose it. My brain explodes from the power of the synchronicity. So I walk over to him, and I basically am like, thank you so much for everything that you've done, everything that you do. If there's anything I can do to help you host an event or in any way help serve your mission and process, I would be honored. And man, I was just like, just try and please anything that any way I can help. Oh my gosh, freaking out. So I ended up getting their email, contacting them, and I was going on about, oh, this is such a synchronicity and what a special day. Yeah. And then Kali said something quite beautiful where she said something about how the mother's light is always shining bright. It touched me very deeply, and just the power of how they live in that fullness of synchronicity all the time, constantly. It wasn't a special day for them necessarily as much as I felt. It was just another day of perfection. So yeah, we ended up working together and orchestrating a kirtan or a chanting event in Boone. And so I'm running around Boone, organizing it, getting it set up, just really focused on it. Ended up a pretty good turnout. Ended up playing drums for them at the kirtan. It was really wonderful experience that night, just so filled with energy and intensity from this event. So wow, I just felt so connected to them after that moment. And so I ended up going to a retreat they hosted not too much later. Then things got interesting. Then it's not a public event, it's a private event. One night had something they called a tantric shamanic ritual where Kali was supposedly sort of channeling the Divine Mother Kali herself, and it was getting a little weird, I'm not gonna lie. I was getting a sense like this was their pre-lovemaking ritual or something. And so she's waving a crystal around and smearing kumkum on people as if it's blood and going into these weird kind of trances and states. And I just felt like, wow, this isn't necessarily the path for me. So I kind of left that retreat early thinking, oh my God, like what have I gotten myself into? Like, to me, spirituality can be simple and calm and loving, and it doesn't have to be beating your head against a wall or having a teacher yell at you about how incapable you are. And ended up leaving that experience. But about a year later, I started having these dreams every single night where they were coming to me in my dreams again, and they were taking me on these magical adventures, and I was having all of these sort of ceremonies that were unfolding in my inner vision through my dreams that they were leading me through, teaching me otherworldly chants and rituals and pujas and artis. And wow, it was a profound experience, a set of experiences. I think it was 5 or 6 days in a row. So I ended up emailing them and saying, hey, I'm sorry for the way things shook out before, but if you're interested in having another event in Boone, I just had this amazing experience and I still feel very connected to you guys, and just let me know. So we ended up actually planning an event that was held at Mother Mira's house on Heavenly Mountain. Quite an event. It was a little more intimate than the first one. Not as many people turned out, but it was in such a powerful house that was, all the architecture was built with sacred geometry. And wow, so powerful energies. It's in the Divine Mother's house, the house of an avatar. So a few days later, we ended up doing a homa, or a fire ceremony, at a friend of mine's house I used to live at. That was an amazing experience, really intimate, maybe 10, 12, 14 people, just such a close-knit connection. And they said to me that Boone was their favorite place in the whole world to visit, and it was just such a beautiful, perfect day. The ceremony went beautifully. At the end of the homa, he actually took the mala that he was using during the ceremony, made of tiger's eye, put the tiger's eye prayer necklace or mala around my neck, and I just felt so much energy and power from it. And his wife, who's now named Sharada Devi, said to me, I can't believe he gave this to you. He's been using that prayer necklace for 20 years. And I just felt so blessed by it. But surprisingly, a few days later, the house I was living in ended up burning down. And that mala was destroyed with it, along with these giant pictures of Neem Karoli Baba that I had made for the kirtan at Mother Mira's house. And so they were returning to Asheville, which is not too far from Boone, just a few days later, and ended up inviting me down there to play drums at that event as well. It was really a blessing, them reaching out to me during that difficult time right after the house had burnt down. The day after that kirtan, they had a workshop that was working with the bij mantras of the chakras and of the ceremony. They actually kind of created a human yantra of sorts and had everyone get in a circle, and they all held hands and were singing the Hare Krishna and Hare Rama mantra as they're going around in a circle, with Bhagavan Das on the outside of the circle playing his ektar, and they had me in the middle of the circle as the center point of the mandala or the yantra. And I just felt such a blessing. It was such an amazing moment where they're all sort of circling around me, worshiping Ram and Krishna, and I just felt like I was being filled with the energy of that devotion and of those beings, and it was truly a remarkable and magical moment. So it was only a few months later that they contacted me and said that the picture I had given them of Neem Karoli Baba, the same as the one that had burnt down at my house fire, that was at Mother Mira's kirtan, ended up where a flame from their altar didn't burn the picture, but it just totally blacked it out. Nothing else burnt. Their house was fine, no other problems, but the same picture connected to the house fire ended up burning. So they told me this story the last time that they came to Boone for a final kirtan we did together, which was another amazing experience held at Neighborhood Yoga, a wonderful yoga studio in downtown Boone. And so powerful experience. I was getting really into it, drumming during, I think it was the Hanuman Chalisa or something like that. And then he looks over at me just in the middle of everything. Everyone's getting all hyped and just like looks me dead in the eyes. And it's just like big thumbs up, like just me and him vibing super hard, feeling super connected. And after the ceremony, they told me the story about the picture, told me a few other stories. He like grabs my shoulder and looks deep into my eyes, and it's like, you and I are very connected, more connected than you understand. I'm sure there's still more that I'll come to know about the deep nature of our connection. But a few years later, I ended up in India, and while I was on a meditation retreat in India, I also had many repeated dreams and visions and experiences where he was coming to me and teaching me inner ceremonies, inner rituals. Truly profound. I feel so connected to him and so grateful for the influence and inspiration he's provided for me and for everyone who's on the spiritual path as yogic practitioners in America specifically. And for those of you that don't know, obviously his story, it continues. He's still alive, thank God, but he went through a very difficult time recently where he was in Hawaii. He had just cut off his dreads and shaved his beard. I guess was sitting a few days later at a gas station when a truck or an SUV hops off the side of the sidewalk and landed on his pelvis and ended up driving over his pelvis. And he, oh my gosh, has been in the hospital, was in the hospital for a long time, rehabbing for a long time, fractured pelvis, a wound that got reinfected, had to go back to the hospital. All these difficulties have ensued. His new partner has been taking care of him with tremendous love and devotion, and he seems to be on the mend now, doing a lot better. He's finally healing back on the mainland, walking a little bit again. You know, our prayers are for his healing, and maybe he'll be able to lead some kirtans again in the future. You know, for now he's in a fragile state, but his heart is still so full of devotion, and he's such a beacon of the mantra and just singing out to creation. And you know, all of our prayers are with him. And those are a few of my experiences with Bhagavan Das over the years. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope you consider checking out some of his kirtans, some of his music, some of his videos on YouTube, his book, definitely. If you enjoyed this video, want to hear more stories of my experiences with different spiritual teachers, please make sure to click the like and subscribe button down below, comment experiences you've had with Bhagavan Das or Ram Das, your connection to Neem Karoli Baba. Yeah, thanks for joining. Ram Ram, Sita Ram.